Developing story out of Pinellas County, where authorities removed the body of a Clearwater grandmother from a storage unit this afternoon.
Say what? Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Today, I'm going to show you some of the most shocking storage unit finds ever.
It's close to midnight. Something.
A thriller of music. Now, it's not strange to find all kinds of musical memorabilia in storage units. Just the opposite, in fact. It's actually pretty common. Instruments, speakers, stage gear, and even stuff for concerts. But sometimes the most shocking things are the history that never got to get made. In this case, these were songs written by Michael Jackson that were never produced. Now, it's hard to believe that as Michael Jackson is known and beloved for his songwriting skills, how did he not make the songs when they were clearly written? Well, it's actually because he was between record labels, and he just wrote them down. Some of them actually did get recorded, including some with Tina Turner, but because the songs weren't under any record label, no one could claim them, until they then went up for auction. I'm sure that the guy that bought them felt like a smooth criminal.
Knight Rider, a shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man.
Night riding into a unit. Now, there are certain things that are considered the holy grail items in a storage unit.
Is this stuff worth anything?
Considering the amount of work that I see all around this room, I would say that you have maybe about 300,000.
And one of the biggest ones is a vehicle. Now, if a car is put into a unit, it's often because it has value, either to the owner or to the world at large. And there was once a James Bond car that was put into a storage unit, as we revealed in a previous list, but one that might even be more shocking is a perfect replica of the legendary kit car from Knight Rider.
All right, buddy. You ready?
Ready.
Here we go.
Now, could you just imagine being that person, having the Knight Rider car, and then deciding to put it into a storage unit? But why? Why would you do that? And why would you leave it behind? That's a car that I would treasure, and I wouldn't just keep it anywhere. Now, am I getting a little too personal? Hey man, don't hassle the Hoff.
High-end coffee table and expensive real leather sofa.
It's a rocket, man. The Auction Hunters were one of the shows that made the whole storage unit craze go on, and they found some pretty cool and shocking things that would boggle even my mind, and I love the show because of it. One of those shocking things they found all involved space. Now first, they found a Russian spacesuit, one that was apparently from the early 2000s, but a model that had been around for much longer. Now you just have to wonder how a spacesuit, one that was in such great shape when the boys found it, ended up in a storage locker in the United States to begin with. But that wasn't all. They also found some official NASA gear, including a countdown clock for a launch and an actual NASA rocket. A small model version, mind you, but one that could be launched. Given all that was in those lockers, could storage units actually be the final frontier?
I am not in danger, Skylar. I am the danger.
Heisenberg getting paid. Now, storage units are actually quite versatile, depending on what kind that you get, which is apparently what one set of owners took advantage of when they decided to go all Breaking Bad and actually produce meth in their storage unit. In Rancho Cordova, California, a storage unit buying duo bought a seemingly harmless room for $80, and then, as they began to rummage through their new wares, they came across boxes that said danger and poison. That's when they soon discovered that the items came from a meth lab, including the classic gas mask that was worn by meth makers as they craft their product. Police were called in, the whole unit was closed off because they felt the old items were potentially lethal given their potential age. Now, it's unclear as to whether the lab was actually used as a meth lab or merely storage for their supplies, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone tried to make meth in a storage unit.
Developing story out of Pinellas County, where authorities removed the body of a Clearwater grandmother from a storage unit this afternoon. Investigators say the family had stored her body there for more than a decade.
I found Grandma. So, what's worth more than finding a human limb in a storage locker? How about finding a whole body? That's exactly what happened in Florida when a family willingly admitted that a grandmother in the family was in the storage unit that they owned. But then why would they confess such a thing? Well, it was because they were behind on payments for the locker, and the owners of the storage unit facility then threatened to sell their unit at auction, and so they had to reveal what was in it. Here's the kicker, though. The body was stored in a blue casket and was perfectly embalmed and just left to rest there for 17 years. Now, while I can't say how much that storage unit cost, it's probably fair to think that by the time the body was discovered in the unit, the cost of paying for the unit itself likely matched a full-on funeral. And for the record, it's actually illegal to put a dead body in a storage unit, so stop what you're doing and leave your uncle alone.
What you want? Baby, I got it. What you need? You know I got it.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T, the clothing. Aretha Franklin, well, she was known for her voice and for her fashion sense, and after a fire at her home, she was then forced to keep some of her wardrobe in a storage locker, and then she forgot to pay for it. Now you can just imagine what the Queen of Soul had in that unit, and all of it was priceless in its own way. The person who got that unit no doubt walked away a happy person, and even if they didn't sell it all, they no doubt made a pretty penny off of some very cool pieces of attire. As a fan of Aretha Franklin, I'm really jealous. What? Don't judge me.
Confessions from real burglars and home invaders sharing their secrets on where they strike and how you can avoid becoming a target.
Burglar proof. Now here's a story that's going to make you laugh and say, well, that's kind of ironic. Storage units are known for having potential riches in them, so it's not really surprising that they're targets of burglars.
It's go time.
However, one time, a burglar wasn't all that careful, and as he tried to rob a storage unit, a nearby security guard noticed that the door to one of the units was open, and then decided to take action. Now, he couldn't open the door all the way, so he did the next best thing and locked the burglar in. He then called the police, and the burglar was taken into custody without a whole lot of struggle. It just goes to show you, nothing is as easy of a score as you believe it is.
Well, now we want to update you on a story out of Maiden, North Carolina, near Charlotte, where a human leg was found in a used meat smoker.
A leg up on the competition. In 2007, a man named Shannon Wisnant bought a storage unit, one with prized items, one of which being a meat smoker. Now, anyone who cooks knows how valuable it can be when it works, so naturally, he opened up to make sure that it was in good condition, and inside was a human leg. Not a replica, not a prosthetic, a literal amputated leg. Now, there is a reason for this. The previous owner was a man by the name of John Wood, and he lost his leg a few years earlier in a plane crash, which is truly tragic. But why did he keep it? Well, he wanted to be buried with it, apparently, so he kept it in the storage locker, and that way it would be safe and yet not gross people out. However, Wisnant actually liked the prospect, and so afterwards he gave the leg to a funeral home and had the idea to show off the meat smoker and charge money to show people where the leg was from. He made a good amount, and then he asked for the leg back. Now, the whole situation did make its way to the Judge Greg Mathis show, where the judge then ruled that the leg would be returned to Wood. Thank goodness. What doesn't Burt Reynolds keep? Now look, we all know that celebrities have the ability to buy just about anything and everything depending on their status, so it just goes to reason that they would keep things in storage lockers like common people. However, for Burt Reynolds, it's a little bit of a different story, and a really weird one at that. You see, Mr. Reynolds decided to keep a lot of strange, odd, and just plain out there items in his storage unit, which someone bought and then got to explore. There were touching items, like a horse carriage made by Dolly Parton, who he'd been in films with. There were classic items, like the canoe from the movie Deliverance. And then there was a framed doctor's note, talking about his spleen operation, and a sale of a horse named Trigger, and really a whole lot more. Excessive? Eccentric? Exactly. And because of all that weird stuff, the items were then sent to a museum in Jupiter, Florida. How to get away with murder. Now, as any policeman is going to tell you, finding evidence to link a person to a crime is essential in getting a verdict. And that's why it no doubt shocked one Rick Ratzloff when he purchased a storage unit and found a bunch of boxes containing SEAL items and police records. The evidence itself was part of a cold case, a 17-year-old murder case to be exact. A woman would be shot dead by 3 different guns, and the evidence was both part of that case and the death of her dog a little bit before. It's a shame what they did to that dog. The deputy in charge of that case, and the one that was accused of several things by the victim's family, both before and after their death, apparently hid the items in the storage locker. Now, while he was never charged with murder, he was charged with misconduct of evidence and abuse of police power. With that said, that concludes what are 10 shocking storage unit finds that we could come across. Feel free to comment and let me know what you thought about today's video, and leave a like if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications to see more, and have yourselves an excellent day.